Hello. Now, as those that watch my stream know, I have recently been playing on the PTS since 0.63 is live on the PTS, and you get to test a bunch of the new changes. So obviously one of my interests has been the Grozovoi. It had really insane AA pre-launch, and then just before launch it got nerfed significantly, and the AA was no longer god tier basically, and sadly the AA was really the only strength the ship had. Everything else the Grozovoi could do, the gearing was significantly better at. But that has actually changed now, because on the PTS they have changed not just gun range, they have increased it from the absolutely pitiful, I think it's 10.6 default range on the live server right now. It's something ridiculously small like that. And they have buffed the reload from 5 seconds to 4.2. Now the Grozovoi of course has 950 meter per second shells, so in the past I often complained that there's literally no point in having those fast shells when the reload is so clumsy and the range is so bad that you could easily do with slower shells and still achieve the same thing, because well, you're shooting targets that are so close to you anyway. Well, they have obviously addressed both of these issues, and no longer do I feel like going for the full anti-air spec is the best way to play this. In the past, the only way I really enjoyed the Grozovoi was still going for the full anti-air spec and queuing with a carrier, because that was literally the only thing which the Grozovoi was still the best at. The only thing it beat the gearing at was going full anti-air spec. Everything else you were better off playing a gearing. Well, that has now changed with this reload change. And running basic firing training, running the 3 million reload mod, all of these changes, you are actually able to get your reload down to well, at least in this actually right now I have 3.7. I think that's because I was still leveling the captain, because of course we get 15-point captains, not 19-point captains on PTS. I have 3.7 second reload here, but you can actually get a 3.3 second reload, and that's before Adrenaline Rush kicks in. With Adrenaline Rush kicking in, you can get your reload below 3 seconds. So add in Demolition Expert and add in flags, and you have an 11% chance of setting fires on a sub 3 second reload. So that obviously means that you can play this as a very good Soviet gunboat. Now, of course the first thing people think about, well, I already have is it going to beat the Khaba? Is it a better Khabarovsk since it has better shell speed? And the answer is no. It's not going to beat the Khaba. It's a very strong gunboat, but it still has multiple issues or multiple things preventing it. This Hindenburg literally suicided on me, which is a bit retarded. I was hoping my team would move up and help me, but as you can see, my Neptune, Bismarck and Kurfürst are all still in spawn. I think the Bismarck sailed all the way from the south, and my the Kurfürst and Neptune, they aren't really moving in to help at all. They're just sitting in spawn sniping. So I lost a bunch of HP to a suicidal Hindenburg, which is unfortunate. However, you did notice I have something like a 3.7 second reload there. Now that my HP pool has gone so low, my reload will of course be significantly improved, since I'm pretty sure I was running Adrenaline Rush here. I take out some of my frustration on this Kurfürst and Neptune that's sitting in the back and not really helping us in any way, which is a bit annoying. But anyways, where I was, of course. So, is it going to replace the Khabarovsk? No. It can't defeat the Khabarovsk simply. First of all, the Khaba has 50mm armor plating. That's something the Grozovoi does not have. The Grozovoi is just as squishy as a gearing. So when it comes to taking long-range shells and well, tanking them, so to say, the Grozovoi will never be as tanky as the Khaba. There's also, of course, the speed issue. The Khaba is still the fastest ship in the game, and the Grozovoi, especially since you run defensive AA, is never really going to match it. I think you're like 5 or 6 knots, maybe even 7 knots slower when you count in speed boost and such things. So you are never going to be as tanky or as fast and as agile as the Khaba. But in return, of course, you have your defensive AA, and you can build the ship a bit differently. For example, you can go the full gunboat, but then later on, for example, here you notice I only have 1 smoke left after this, so I did switch my build up significantly after this. I switched out Superintendent just for the additional smoke, because unlike the Khaba, who likes to sail around in the open and rain down HE on his targets from long range. In the Grozovoi, you actually like to sit in smokes and do it instead. In fact, this is a much more smoke campy playstyle, much more of a USDD playstyle, really. And of course, this isn't going to be affected by the stealth fire changes at all. This type of gameplay will still work perfectly fine on the live server, so that's obviously good. Overall, the Grozovoi has greatly improved. It was practically unplayable, but now they have actually made it feel a bit more like the advertised destroyer leader that they called it in the beginning or a while ago. Since, well, yes, you have defensive AA. That's not to say the defensive AA is good if you don't spec for it. If you don't fully spec for the anti-air, especially now that it's nerfed, your anti-air is pretty damn pitiful. But it's okay. I mean, it's decent, and if you have defensive AA active, you will be shooting down some planes, and you can help your carrier out. So that's, of course, a bonus. But ultimately, it's somewhere between the Khaba and the gearing. It doesn't quite have the range, the speed, or the tankiness of the Khaba, but it doesn't have the concealment and the torps of the gearing either. But it's somewhere in the middle, and I actually quite like its position right now. I actually feel like they've gotten a pretty damn good position for it. The lower HP you go, of course, the stronger adrenaline rush becomes. And when you go sub 3-second reload, sadly I can't demonstrate it here. I'll play some more games on the PTS maybe today, and maybe I'll be able to demonstrate it. But you really become quite a DPS monster in this thing. But of course, many other ships also become that. But in return for gaining all this firepower, you have to give up Concealment Expert. In fact, I have completely given up Concealment Expert in my build on this ship. In the past, running Concealment Expert was the best when you wanted to go for AA builds and such. But right now I've just given it up, and I have a 7.7 km concealment, which means of course you can't push into caps like, for example, a gearing can, but you have to play it like a more defensive Russian DD, which is an interesting playstyle. You are much stronger against carriers, and your gun power is significant, but you don't have the same mobility and the same tankiness, I'd say. So, do I like it? I actually quite like the new Grozovoi. I think they found a pretty good position for it. It feels different from the Khaba, it plays different from the Khaba, but it doesn't feel completely inferior to the gearing anymore, because, well, for example, if you queue up with a carrier and you have a carrier spotting for you, the amount of damage you can actually nail down with these guns is very significant. And both for solo and division play, as long as you have someone spotting for you, the amount of damage you can just nail on anything, not just battleships, but you saw the AP damage on the cruiser on the Hindenburg earlier. The gun power is no joke anymore. It's a very, very strong gunboat. It's a squishy one, but it's a very strong one, and it doesn't feel like the gearing with terrible arcs, but it doesn't quite feel like the Khaba either. So TLDR, I like the changes. I enjoyed the new Grozovoi, and I think this patch is going to be a pretty welcome change for the ship, because, well, before these changes, the Grozovoi was quite terrible, really. Like, it didn't really have much going for it. I'm of course being rushed by the DDs because, well, my core force decided that instead of staying where he was or pushing in into the cap, he decided to go sail around the entire island on my side of me, so he's not providing any sort of fire support, and because he's not providing any fire support or any spotting support, this Grozovoi could just sail right into me, and the Khaba is also torping me, torping his body as well, and, well, it's just a shit show at this point. I go down, but I feel I got to demonstrate what I wished, which is of course the gun power of the ship. The game ends 165k damage. I mean, its PTS numbers vary greatly on PTS, you can get some silly numbers, but what can't be argued is the sheer gun power that this ship brings. I mean, yeah, basic speed is good, but looking at the sheer gun power, of course, you can see that main battery alone, 76,000 plus another 29k fire damage, and you can probably easily farm Witherer and such things. In fact, let's move on to my build, and I'll see if I can get some games played with this, my new updated build, which I consider better than the one I used in this commentary. I feel you could very easily farm some impressive numbers, and the new Grozovoi, it has clear weaknesses. I mean, you will get outspotted by most other DDs. If a Khaba comes and challenges you, he will shit on you, but it kind of fits somewhere there in between, where it's a really good supportive DD. It can help out friendly DDs by shooting down planes. It can help a friendly DDs with gunpowder. It has decent torps. It's kind of actually fitting the description of being a fleet leader, so very promising patch for this ship at least. Anyway, let's move on to my recommended build. Right, starting off, well, some things haven't changed. You still need to waste a bunch of XP on this torpedo upgrade, which is pretty much must have. You can see I now run Superintendent, so I actually have 4 smokes. Steering gears, the big change really here is that I ran main battery mode 3 because, well, the guns are actually worth upgrading now instead of just going for the AA. So captain perks wise, this is of course the important thing. Starting off with the usual priority target, great for DDs. I mean preventive maintenance, sorry. Last stand, after last stand, demolition expert, and advanced firing training. After this, superintendent and basic firing training. Basic firing training, of course, also buffs your anti-air, which makes it fantastic. And after that, we get adrenaline rush kicking in. You can notice that now already I have 3.3 second reload time on these guns. And now when we add in adrenaline rush kicking in, you realize, yes, you can easily go below a 3-second reload. And that's really when the power, like the gun power, really starts kicking in, when this ship starts pumping out a pretty insane amount of damage. The range, of course, increased as well. My last captain perk I would put into priority target. I still don't have it maxed out, but then again, on PTS I kind of have to grind it still a bit. But the changes to the Grozovoi are very promising, and it seems that they have indeed listened to the feedback regarding this ship. The speed, of course, speed and maneuverability, you won't match a Khaba, and you won't match a gearing, but you're kind of in between, which I like. Once again, it's a fitting place for the Grozovoi. The Z52 has also been greatly improved with better concealment, and I'll try to cover that at some point soon as well. But I'll be returning to that stuff later. I hope you enjoyed this brief preview. I'll talk to you guys later.